He promised me forever, then spent our wedding night with his ex. So I married his brother. Now I'll break his empire, with his ruthless brother Lucian by my side. I should have known. The moment I walked down the aisle in my ivory lace gown, the way Damian's smile didn't quite reach his eyes, the way his fingers trembled slightly as he slid the diamond band onto my finger, I should have known. But love makes fools of us all, and I, Arya Sterling, was the biggest fool of them all. The reception had been a dream. Champagne towers, a 12-tier cake, a string quartet playing our song as we swayed under crystal chandeliers. Everyone whispered about what a perfect match we were. The golden couple. Damian Blackwood, heir to the Blackwood Empire, and me, the self-made architect who had caught his eye at a charity gala 2 years ago. He had promised me the world, and like an idiot I believed him. I waited in our honeymoon suite, still in my wedding dress, the silk pooling around me as I sat on the edge of the bed. The suite was bathed in candlelight, rose petals scattered across the sheets. Everything perfect, just as I had imagined. But as the hours ticked by, the champagne in my glass went flat, and my heart began to pound with something ugly. Dread. Then my phone buzzed. An anonymous text. A photo. My stomach dropped. There he was. My husband, pressed against her in a dimly lit hotel room. Isabella. His ex. The woman he had sworn meant nothing to him anymore. Her arms were wrapped around his neck, his mouth on hers, his hands gripping her waist like he couldn't get enough. The timestamp? 20 minutes ago. I couldn't breathe. The room spun. My fingers trembled as I dialed his number. Once, twice, 3 times. No answer. Just the mocking silence of his betrayal. I didn't think. I just moved. I tore off my veil, kicked off my heels, and stormed out of the suite, my dress dragging behind me. The elevator ride down felt like an eternity, my reflection in the mirrored walls a distorted version of the glowing bride I had been hours before. Now my cheeks were streaked with mascara, my lips pressed into a thin, furious line. The hotel staff tried to stop me, but I didn't care. I shoved past them, my bare feet slapping against the marble floors as I followed the directions from the photo. Room 1407. I didn't knock. I threw the door open. And there they were. Damian's head snapped up, his dark eyes widening in horror. Isabella gasped, scrambling off his lap, her lips swollen from his kisses. The room reeked of perfume and whiskey, the bed rumpled, his tuxedo jacket discarded on the floor. For a second no one spoke. Then Damian said my name. Arya. I didn't let him finish. I slapped him. Hard. The sound echoed in the room, his head jerking to the side. Isabella shrieked, but I didn't even look at her. My entire body was shaking, my vision blurred with tears I refused to shed. You bastard, I hissed. Damian's hand flew to his cheek, his expression twisting from shock to guilt. Arya, it's not what it looks like. Save your lies. My voice was ice. I saw the photo. I saw you. He reached for me, but I stepped back, my chest heaving. I swear it was a mistake. She came to me, upset, and I just... You just what? I laughed, the sound hollow. Couldn't resist fucking her on our wedding night? Isabella had the nerve to speak. Arya, please, it wasn't planned. Shut up. I didn't even glance at her. My eyes were locked on Damian. You promised me forever. You stood in front of everyone we know and lied. His jaw clenched. I love you. This meant nothing. Then you have a funny way of showing love. I turned and walked out. I didn't run. I held my head high even as my heart shattered into a million pieces. The hallway stretched endlessly, the patterned carpet blurring beneath my feet. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. Then the elevator doors opened. And he stepped out. Lucian Blackwood. Damian's older brother. The one no one talked about. The one who had been exiled from the family years ago after some mysterious fallout. He was taller than Damian, broader, his sharp jaw shadowed with stubble, his icy blue eyes locking onto mine with unsettling intensity. He was dressed in all black, his presence like a storm rolling in. We stared at each other for a heartbeat. Then his gaze flicked to my disheveled dress, my tear-streaked face. And he smirked. Well, he drawled, his voice deep and rough. Looks like the wedding night didn't go as planned. I should have pushed past him. I should have ignored him. But something in his eyes, something dark and knowing, made me pause. What do you want? I snapped. He tilted his head, studying me like a puzzle he wanted to solve. Revenge. I blinked. What? Lucian took a step closer, the heat of his body radiating against mine. I know what my brother just did to you. And I know you want to make him pay. His lips curved, slow and dangerous. So here's my offer, Arya Sterling. Marry me. I choked. What? Not for love, he clarified, his fingers brushing a loose strand of hair from my face. For revenge. You want to humiliate him? I want to destroy him. Let's do it together. My pulse roared in my ears. This was insane. But the look in Lucian's eyes, the promise of fire and fury, was intoxicating. Damian had promised me the world. Lucian was offering me hell. And right now? Hell sounded good. I swallowed hard, my voice barely a whisper. Yes. Lucian's grin was razor sharp. Good girl. The penthouse was nothing like Damian's. Where my almost husband had favored sleek modernism, cold marble and sharp angles. Lucian's domain was all dark wood, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city's glittering skyline, and an undercurrent of something wild barely restrained. The air smelled like leather and whiskey, with a hint of smoke clinging to his clothes as he led me inside without another word. I was still in my ruined wedding dress, the delicate lace torn from where I'd caught it on the door handle in my haste to escape. My bare feet left faint smudges on the polished hardwood, but Lucian didn't seem to care. He poured 2 glasses of amber liquid and handed one to me. I didn't drink. You're serious, I said, my voice hoarse from screaming at Damian. Lucian took a slow sip, his eyes never leaving mine. Deadly. I swallowed hard. My hands were shaking. The adrenaline of the last hour was wearing off, leaving me hollow and unsteady. Why? Because my brother deserves to suffer. He set his glass down with a quiet clink. And you, Arya, are the perfect weapon. A weapon. That's all I was to him. I should have walked out right then. But the image of Damian and Isabella tangled together burned behind my eyelids, and something vicious uncoiled in my chest. What exactly are you proposing? Lucian smirked. A marriage. In name only at first. His gaze dragged over me, slow and assessing. We'll make it public. The media will eat it up. Damian's discarded bride running straight to his estranged brother. He'll be humiliated. And you? He stepped closer, his fingers brushing my chin. You'll be untouchable. I shivered. His touch was nothing like Damian's. Where my ex-fiancé had been all practiced charm, Lucian was pure intensity, every movement deliberate. And what do you get out of this? I asked. His thumb traced my lower lip. Watching Damian lose everything. There was more to it, I could see it in the shadows of his eyes, but I didn't press. Not yet. I turned away, pacing the length of his living room. My reflection in the windows was ghostly, a pale, broken thing in white lace. This is insane. It's justice. It's revenge. Call it whatever you want. He shrugged. But ask yourself, do you really want to walk away? Let him win. I closed my eyes. Damian's laughter echoed in my memory, his promises whispered against my skin. You're the only one, Arya. Always. Liar. I turned back to Lucian. Fine. But I have conditions. His eyebrow arched. Do tell. No real marriage. No, I gestured between us. This. It's business. He chuckled, low and dark. For now. I ignored the way my pulse jumped. And I keep my career. My independence. Naturally. And when Damian is ruined? I lifted my chin. We walk away. Lucian studied me for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded document. Already drafted. I took it, scanning the pages. A contract. Cold, clinical, outlining exactly what we were to each other. Partners in vengeance, nothing more. I should have hesitated. I didn't. I signed. Lucian's smile was all teeth. Welcome to the game, Mrs. Blackwood. The next morning was chaos. I woke up in a guest room. Lucian hadn't so much as glanced at me after I signed his contract, to a barrage of missed calls. Damian. My mother. My best friend. The press. I silenced my phone and stepped into the shower, scrubbing until my skin was raw. The wedding dress lay in a heap on the floor, a grotesque reminder of yesterday's betrayal. When I emerged, wrapped in a towel, Lucian was leaning against the doorframe, holding out a garment bag. Wear this. I unzipped it. A sleek black dress. Expensive. Understated. What's this for? Our first public appearance. His grin was wolfish. Damian's holding a press conference in an hour. My stomach twisted. What? To address the rumors. Lucian's voice dripped with disdain. He's going to spin this, Arya. Make you the villain. Unless we stop him. I clutched the dress. You want us to just show up? I want us to own it. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. Let him see what he lost. I should have said no. But the thought of Damian's face when I walked in with Lucian. I nodded. An hour later we stood outside the Blackwood Enterprises building, a swarm of reporters already gathered. Lucian's hand settled on the small of my back, possessive and warm. Ready, he murmured. I took a deep breath. Let's burn him to the ground. The moment we stepped out of the car, the cameras exploded. Flashbulbs blinded me, voices shouting over each other. Arya, is it true you left Damian at the altar? Lucian, are you stealing your brother's fiancé? Was there infidelity? But I didn't flinch. Lucian's hand tightened on mine, his grip unyielding as he guided me through the frenzy. His expression was carved from stone, but I could feel the tension radiating off him, a predator poised to strike. Inside, the lobby of Blackwood Enterprises was eerily quiet, employees whispering behind their hands as we passed. The elevator ride to the press conference floor was silent, my reflection in the mirrored walls a stranger. Sleek black dress, blood-red lips, eyes like shattered glass. Lucian stood beside me, his tailored suit emphasizing the breadth of his shoulders, his presence a living threat. Last chance to back out, he murmured. I met his gaze. I'm not running. The doors slid open. Chaos. The room was packed, journalists jostling for position, cameras trained on the raised platform where Damian stood, pale but composed, Isabella hovering at his side like a specter. His speech faltered the second he saw us. Arya? What the hell? Then his eyes locked on Lucian. And his face twisted. The room erupted. Reporters surged forward, shouting questions, but Lucian didn't stop. He strode straight for the stage, dragging me with him, our footsteps echoing like gunshots. Damian took an involuntary step back, his composure cracking. What are you doing here? He hissed. Lucian smiled. Supporting my wife. Silence. Then pandemonium. The word wife detonated like a bomb. Cameras flashed, voices screeching. Wife? When did this happen? Arya, is this true? But I couldn't speak. My lungs burned. Damian's face went slack with horror, his gaze darting between us, realization dawning. You, he choked. You married him? Lucian didn't give me time to answer. He kissed me. Right there. In front of everyone. His mouth crashed against mine, fierce and claiming, one hand tangling in my hair, the other pulling me flush against him. I gasped. This wasn't part of the plan, but his tongue swept in hot and demanding, and God help me, I kissed him back. The room spun, the noise fading to a dull roar, my body responding on instinct, my fingers clutching his lapels. When he finally pulled away, my lips were swollen, my breath ragged. His eyes gleamed with dark satisfaction. Oops, he murmured just for me. Guess we're not faking after all. Damian looked like he'd been gutted. Isabella's mouth hung open. And the press? They lost their damn minds. The kiss lasted less than 10 seconds. It unraveled everything. By the time Lucian pulled away, the room had erupted into pure bedlam, reporters shouting over each other, camera flashes exploding like strobe lights, Damian's choked, "What the FEK?" slicing through the noise. My lips still burned from the heat of Lucian's mouth, my pulse hammering so violently I could feel it in my fingertips. This wasn't part of the deal. We were supposed to be a calculated front, a cold, strategic strike. Not this. Not his hands gripping me like he owned me, not the possessive way his teeth had scraped my bottom lip, not the dark promise in his eyes when he'd murmured oops. Damian lunged forward, his composure shattered. You bastard. Security intercepted him before he could reach us, but the damage was done. The footage would be everywhere within minutes. Scorned bride Arya Sterling shock swirled by marrying Blackwood heir's estranged brother, and kissing him in front of everyone. Lucian didn't give them time to regroup. He guided me off the stage with a smirk, his grip firm on my waist as we pushed through the clamoring crowd. I barely registered the questions being hurled at us. How long has this been going on? Was Damian abusive? Is this a publicity stunt? My mind still spinning from the kiss. The second we were in the car, I whirled on him. What the hell was that? Lucian loosened his tie, unfazed. Insurance. Insurance. Now he knows this isn't just revenge. His gaze slid to me, slow and deliberate. It's war. The car pulled away from the curb, leaving the chaos behind, but my skin still prickled with the weight of what we'd just done. I touched my lips, still tingling. That wasn't part of the agreement. Plans change. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a rough whisper. Tell me you didn't like it. I should have lied. I didn't. The silence stretched between us, thick with something dangerous. Lucian's smirk deepened, like he knew exactly what I wasn't saying. Then my phone buzzed. Damian. You think this is a game? You have no idea what he's capable of. I showed Lucian the message. His expression didn't change, but his knuckles whitened around his phone. Respond, he said. I hesitated, then typed. I know exactly what he's capable of. That's why I chose him. Lucian's laugh was dark, approving. Damian read it immediately. Then the calls started. One after another, my screen lighting up with his name, but I silenced it. Let him rage. Let him suffer. Lucian's hand settled on my thigh, warm through the fabric of my dress. Good girl. I didn't push him away. The media storm was instant. By the time we reached Lucian's penthouse, the headlines were already live. Blackwood scandal. Bride dumps O for his ruthless brother. Damian Blackwood humiliated as ex-fiancé marries his estranged sibling. It's true love, says Lucian Blackwood after stunning kiss. I threw my phone onto the couch. They think this is a romance. Lucian poured 2 drinks, handing me one. Isn't it? I shot him a look. He shrugged. Perception is everything. Let them believe what they want. He took a sip, watching me over the rim of his glass. Makes the knife twist deeper. I downed the whiskey, the burn steadying me. What now? Now. He set his glass down with a clink. We let Damian make the next move. As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. Not Damian this time. My mother. Aria Grace Sterling, you explain this right now. I groaned. Lucian plucked the phone from my hand. Tell her you'll bring me to dinner. I gaped at him. Dinner. Family should meet the groom, shouldn't they? His grin was all teeth. This man was going to be the death of me. My mother's home had always been a sanctuary. Warm oak floors, the scent of vanilla candles, the kind of place where laughter echoed easily. Tonight it felt like a war zone. I smoothed my dress for the 10th time as Lucian parked his black Aston Martin in the driveway. He cut the engine and turned to me, his gaze flickering over my tense posture. Nervous. Terrified, I admitted. His smirk was infuriating. Don't be. I'm charming. I snorted. You're a menace. Same thing. The front door swung open before we could knock. My mother stood there, arms crossed, her sharp blue eyes assessing Lucian like he was a suspect in a crime. Behind her, my father lingered in the hallway, his expression unreadable. Aria, Mom said tightly. Then to Lucian, so you're the man who started a media circus. Lucian extended a hand. Lucian Blackwood. Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Sterling. She ignored it. You married my daughter out of spite? I winced. Mom. No, let him answer. Lucian didn't flinch. I married her because she deserved better than my brother. A beat of silence. Then my mother stepped aside. Dinner's getting cold. The meal was excruciating. My parents fired questions like bullets. How long have you known each other? What are your intentions? Do you even love her? And Lucian answered each one with unsettling calm. He was good at this, I realized. Too good. Every response was calculated, disarming, tailored to chip away at their skepticism. By dessert, even my father was reluctantly impressed. Then my phone buzzed. A news alert. Breaking. Blackwood Enterprises stock plummets after Damian Blackwood's emotional interview. My brother stole my fiancée. I showed Lucian under the table. His jaw tightened, but his voice remained light as he turned to my father. Sir, you own shares in Blackwood, don't you? Dad frowned. Yes, but... Sell them. Now. The room went still. Why? Mom demanded. Lucian dabbed his mouth with a napkin. Because by tomorrow they'll be worthless. The drive back to Lucian's penthouse was silent, the weight of his warning hanging thick between us. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through the headlines. Blackwood Enterprises in free fall. Investors panic after Damian's breakdown. Lucian Blackwood's shocking role in company collapse. The market had reacted exactly as Lucian predicted. Stock prices nosediving within hours of Damian's tearful press conference. I stole a glance at his profile, the sharp lines of his face illuminated by the city lights. He looked calm. Too calm. "You knew this would happen," I said quietly. His fingers tightened on the steering wheel. "I knew Damian would self-destruct. But why tell my father to sell?" A muscle ticked in his jaw. "Because I won't let your family drown with him." The implication hit me like a punch. This wasn't just revenge, it was annihilation. Lucian wasn't just humiliating Damian. He was dismantling everything he'd built. And my parents' savings, their retirement, their future, had been collateral in Damian's empire. I swallowed hard. "What did he do to you?" Lucian's laugh was bitter. "You really want to know?" "Yes." The car slowed as we reached a red light. He turned to me, his eyes black with memories. 5 years ago Damian framed me for embezzlement. Had me investigated, dragged through the press, disowned. His voice dropped to a razor's edge. All because our father was considering naming me Siv. My breath caught. "You never fought back?" "Oh, I fought." The light turned green. He accelerated, the engine snarling. But by then it was too late. I lost everything, my name, my reputation, even. He cut himself off, jaw clenched. "Even what?" The penthouse came into view. He parked with brutal precision before answering. "Someone I loved." The words hung between us, heavy with grief. I didn't ask for details. The rawness in his voice said enough. Inside, Lucian headed straight for the whiskey. I watched as he poured 2 fingers, his movements controlled but tense. The penthouse felt different tonight. Less like a fortress, more like a battleground. My phone buzzed. "Damian again. You think he's a hero? Ask him about Clara." I frowned. "Who's Clara?" The glass shattered in Lucian's hand. Whiskey dripped from Lucian's clenched fist, the shards of glass glittering on the marble floor like scattered diamonds. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved, the name Clara hanging between us like a detonated bomb. His breathing was ragged, his shoulders rigid with tension I'd never seen before. This wasn't the controlled, calculating man who'd orchestrated our revenge. This was something raw. Something broken. I took a step forward. "Lucian. Don't." His voice was a blade. But I couldn't stop. Damian's message had slithered under my skin, whispering doubts. "Who is she?" He turned slowly, and the look in his eyes, God, it was like staring into a storm. "Dead." The word was a gunshot. Because of him. The air left my lungs. Before I could respond, Lucian strode to his desk and wrenched open a hidden drawer. He pulled out a file and threw it at my feet. Photos spilled out. A woman with dark curls and a radiant smile, her arms wrapped around a younger Lucian at some gala. Then hospital records. A police report. A headline. Socialite Clara Winslow dies in suspicious fall. My hands shook as I picked it up. Damian made it look like an accident. Lucian's voice was hollow. She was going to testify about the embezzlement. The next day she was dead. The room tilted. Suddenly it all made sense. The depth of his hatred, the ruthlessness of his revenge. This wasn't just about business or betrayal. It was blood. I reached for him without thinking. "Lucian, I'm so..." He caught my wrist, his grip bruising. "Don't pity me." His breath was hot against my lips, his eyes burning. "This changes nothing. The plan stays the same." But it changed everything. Because now I understood. The contract, the marriage, even the kiss. It was all a means to an end. And I was just another weapon in his war. I pulled away. "You used me." His laugh was bitter. "And you used me right back." The truth of it stung. We'd both played our parts perfectly. My phone buzzed again. Damian relentless. "Ask him who really signed their marriage license." I froze. Lucian's gaze dropped to the screen, his expression turning lethal. "Give me that." I clutched it tighter. "What is he talking about?" A beat of silence. Our marriage." Lucian's jaw flexed. "It's not just a contract." The world narrowed to a single horrifying realization. You legally married me? His silence was answer enough. The silence in the penthouse was suffocating. Lucian stood motionless, his face an unreadable mask, while the weight of his deception pressed down on me like a physical force. Legally married. The words echoed in my skull, twisting my stomach into knots. I had signed a contract, yes, but I never agreed to this. You had no right, I whispered, my voice trembling with barely restrained fury. Lucian didn't flinch. I had every right. To what? To trick me into a binding marriage. My hands clenched into fists at my sides. That wasn't part of the deal. The deal was flexible. His tone was infuriatingly calm, as if this were just another negotiation. A legal union gives US leverage. Protection. Damian can't touch you now. Protection. I let out a sharp, disbelieving laugh. You mean control? His eyes darkened. If I wanted control, Arya, you'd know. The implication sent a traitorous shiver down my spine. I forced myself to hold his gaze, refusing to back down. Undo it. No. The finality in that single word made my blood run cold. I turned on my heel and stormed toward the door. I needed air, space, distance. But before I could reach the elevator, Lucian's voice stopped me. Running won't change anything. I whirled around. You don't get to decide what I do. For the first time, something flickered in his expression. Frustration? Guilt? It was gone before I could decipher it. Damian isn't finished with you, he said quietly. If you walk out that door, you're walking straight into his trap. I hesitated. Then my phone buzzed. A new email notification. The sender was blocked, but the subject line made my stomach drop. You should have chosen me. Attached was a single photo. Me asleep in Lucian's penthouse, taken through the window. My breath hitched. Lucian was at my side in an instant, his grip tight on my arm as he scanned the screen. His expression turned lethal. He's watching you. The realization sent ice through my veins. Damian wasn't just angry, he was unhinged. Lucian's phone rang. An unknown number. He answered on speaker. Did you really think I'd let you win? Damian's voice was eerily calm. Lucian's fingers tightened around the device. What do you want? Pause. Then. Her. The line went dead. The moment Damian's threat echoed through the phone line. Her. Lucian's entire body went rigid with something far beyond anger. A primal protectiveness flashed in his eyes as he crushed the phone in his grip, plastic shards biting into his palm. I'd never seen him like this. Not when he'd outmaneuvered shareholders. Not when he'd dismantled Damian's empire piece by piece. This was raw. Uncontrolled. You're not touching her. Lucian's voice was lethally quiet. Damian's laugh slithered through the broken speaker. You can't protect her forever, brother. The line went dead. Silence. Then, Lucian moved. 1 second he was across the room, the next he had me caged against the wall, his hands braced on either side of my head. His chest heaved, his breath coming in ragged gusts against my lips. Listen to me. His voice shattered. This started as revenge. But somewhere between, his thumb brushed my lower lip, trembling. I fell in love with you, Arya. Irrevocably. The confession hung between us, more vulnerable than any contract. So no, he continued, steel returning to his tone. I won't let this end with him lurking in shadows. Tomorrow we finish this. His eyes burned into mine. But tonight? You choose. Stay because you want this. Want me. Or walk away, and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure Damian never breathes the same air as you again. I reached for him, my fingers curling in his bloodied shirt. You arrogant man, I whispered. Did you really think I'd let you have all the fun destroying him? His laugh was dark, relieved. Then his mouth crashed onto mine in a kiss that tasted like vengeance and forever. The first move had been made 3 months ago. Lucian Blackwood did not rush. He did not act on emotion. Every step was calculated, every piece positioned with surgical precision long before the final strike. I sat across from him in his private study, watching as he traced a finger down the latest Blackwood Enterprises quarterly report. The numbers were strong on the surface. But Lucian saw what others didn't. The over-leveraged assets. The questionable acquisitions. The quiet desperation in Damian's attempts to expand too fast, too recklessly. He's weak here, Lucian murmured, circling a figure in red ink. The Singapore venture is bleeding cash. The board knows it. They're just too afraid to say it. I leaned forward. So we make them say it. A slow, dangerous smile curved his lips. We started with the minor players. The ones Damian had ignored, the ones who held just enough stock to matter but not enough to warrant his attention. Lucian met them in private. No paper trails, no electronic records. Old-fashioned face-to-face conversations in dimly lit restaurants and private clubs. He didn't beg. He didn't persuade. He simply laid out the facts. Damian is reckless. The stock is overvalued. The board is complacent. And then the quiet promise. I can fix it. One by one they agreed to listen when the time came. Blackwood Enterprises had always been cash-rich. But Lucian knew where Damian had stretched too thin. The loans he'd taken, the collateral he'd pledged. We didn't attack. Not yet. Instead, Lucian's shell companies began quietly buying up Blackwood's debt. Small amounts at first, then larger. Never enough to trigger alarms. Just enough to hold leverage when the moment came. Margaret Hargrove was the key. The eldest member of the board, the one who had served under Lucian's father. She remembered the company before Damian. She remembered Lucian before the exile. He didn't approach her directly. That would have been too obvious. Instead he let her come to him. A carefully placed rumor about Damian's mismanagement. A leaked report about the Singapore losses. And then, the final nudge. A quiet dinner invitation from an old family friend. By the time Margaret sat across from Lucian, she was already convinced. We need change, she said simply. Lucian inclined his head. I agree. The emergency board meeting was called on a Thursday. Damian walked in expecting another routine discussion about quarterly earnings. He did not expect to see Lucian sitting at the table. Nor did he expect Margaret to stand and say without preamble, "We've lost confidence in your leadership." The room went still. Lucian said nothing. He didn't need to. The documents were already laid out. The financial discrepancies, the shareholder agreements, the debt holdings that now gave him control. Damian's face went pale as he scanned the pages. This is business, Lucian finished softly. The vote took less than 5 minutes. When it was done, Damian Blackwood was no longer CEO. Lucian rose from his seat, straightening his cuffs. Effective immediately. And just like that, the empire was his. The news broke before Damian had even cleared his office. Blackwood Enterprises ousts Damian Blackwood in boardroom coup. Lucian Blackwood returns as CEO. Shares jump 14% on news of leadership change. I watched from the floor-to-ceiling windows of Lucian's new office as the media frenzy unfolded below. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted. And Damian, proud, arrogant Damian, was forced to push through the crowd like just another disgraced executive. Lucian came to stand beside me, his reflection ghosted in the glass. You're quiet. I turned to face him. Was it worth it? For the first time since I'd known him, Lucian hesitated. Then slowly he reached into his pocket and withdrew a single key. The penthouse, he said, pressing it into my palm. It's yours if you want it. No conditions. No contracts. I closed my fingers around it. And you? His hand covered mine. I'm already yours. Outside the city glittered, not his, not mine. Ours. The penthouse felt different now. Morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the space where Lucian and I had orchestrated Damian's downfall. The contract that had bound us together, the marriage of convenience, the revenge plot, had served its purpose. Blackwood Enterprises belonged to Lucian. Damian was finished. And yet the key Lucian had pressed into my palm last night burned a hole in my pocket, its weight heavier than any legal document. I found him on the terrace, his broad shoulders silhouetted against the skyline. He held a coffee in one hand, his phone in the other, already fielding calls from investors eager to curry favor with the new CEO. When he sensed my presence, he ended the call without ceremony. You're up early, he said, his voice rough with sleeplessness. I joined him at the railing. Couldn't sleep. Below us, the city hummed with life, commuters, cabs, the relentless pulse of New York. It was strange to think that just weeks ago I'd been Damian's blushing bride. Now I was Lucian's, what? Partner? Accomplice? Wife? The silence stretched between us, taut with unspoken questions. Lucian broke it first. The board wants a statement. About us. His gaze was unreadable. They're concerned about optics. I barked a laugh. After everything they're worried about optics? Perception is currency. He set his coffee down, turning to face me fully. We could end this now. Quietly. No one would blame you. The offer hung in the air between us. A clean exit. No messy divorce, no lingering obligations. Just freedom. I studied his face, the sharp cut of his jaw, the faint scar above his brow, the eyes that had gone from icy to something infinitely warmer. Is that what you want? He didn't hesitate. No. The single word sent a shockwave through me. Lucian stepped closer, his voice dropping to a murmur. I told you this started as revenge. But somewhere along the way, his thumb brushed my cheekbone, a touch so tender it stole my breath. It became real. I closed my eyes, leaning into his hand. The truth was I'd known for weeks. Known in the way he'd defended me when Damian lashed out. Known in the late-night strategy sessions where our fingers would brush over blueprints. Known when he'd handed me that key without a single condition. When I opened my eyes, Lucian was watching me with raw vulnerability, a look I'd never seen on the ruthless man who'd toppled an empire. I reached into my pocket and pulled out Damian's ring, the solitaire I'd kept as a reminder of his betrayal. Without breaking eye contact, I dropped it over the railing, watching as it disappeared into the city below. Then I took Lucian's face in my hands. Make the statement. His lips crashed against mine, the kiss sealing more than just a corporate narrative. It was a promise, not of revenge but of something far more dangerous. 1 year later we returned to the grand ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria, the same venue where Damian had promised me forever before shattering my heart. Tonight, the space glittered under crystal chandeliers for a very different occasion. The Blackwood Foundation Gala, Lucian's first philanthropic endeavor as CEO. The irony wasn't lost on me. I adjusted the emerald silk of my gown, watching from the mezzanine as guests arrived below. The cream of New York society had turned out, eager to align themselves with the new regime. No one spoke of Damian anymore. His fall had been too swift, too complete. The last I'd heard, he'd relocated to Switzerland, a shadow of the man who'd once commanded boardrooms. A warm hand settled at the small of my back. Nervous? Lucian murmured against my ear, his breath stirring the loose curls at my nape. I turned into his embrace, smoothing the satin lapels of his tuxedo. Just admiring the view. His lips quirked, that rare, unguarded smile he reserved only for me. Wait until you see the surprise. Before I could ask, the orchestra struck up a waltz. Lucian offered his hand. Dance with me. It wasn't a request. We descended the grand staircase to a ripple of applause, Lucian's palms steady against mine. When we reached the dance floor, he pulled me close, his grip possessive but tender. Remember our first dance? He asked as we swayed. How could I forget? Our wedding reception, that stiff, perfunctory waltz for the cameras. Two strangers bound by vengeance. This is better, I admitted, resting my cheek against his. The music swelled. Around us, couples joined in, but we might as well have been alone. Lucian's fingers traced idle patterns along my spine, his heartbeat steady against mine. Then, as the final notes faded, he surprised me by stepping back and raising his voice. If I could have your attention. The room stilled. Lucian kept one hand clasped in mine as he addressed the crowd. A year ago, this company stood at a crossroads. Tonight, thanks to the tireless work of our team, he paused, his thumb brushing my knuckles. And the vision of my wife, we've not only stabilized but thrived. A murmur of approval rippled through the room. But this evening isn't just about looking forward. He nodded to the orchestra conductor. It's about honoring where we began. The opening chords of our wedding song filled the air, the same piece Damian and I had danced to. Only now Lucian pulled me flush against him, his mouth at my ear. Let them see, he whispered. Let them all see how thoroughly I've stolen you. I laughed against his shoulder, letting him spin me into the music. This dance was nothing like the first. No hesitation. No pretending. Just his hands on me, his body moving with mine, the world narrowing to the space between our lips. When the song ended, Lucian didn't release me. Instead, he reached into his pocket and produced a small velvet box. The room gasped. My breath caught. Aria Sterling, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. Will you do me the honor of marrying me? Confusion flickered through me. We were already married, until I saw the glint in his eye. This wasn't about legality. This was a declaration. I tilted my head. Haven't we done this already? His lips found mine in front of everyone. This time, he murmured against my mouth, "It's real." The applause was deafening. Later, when the last guest had departed and we stood amid the ruins of the gala, empty champagne flutes, discarded programs, the ghosts of our past finally laid to rest, Lucian pressed the new ring into my palm. "No contracts this time," he promised. I slid it onto my finger where it caught the light beside my wedding band. Just us. Outside, dawn painted the skyline in gold. Our empire. Our rules. Our beginning. The end.